Yo. Early access. Sorry for the jump scare, but it's fitting because much like abandoned houses, abandoned video games are also spooky. Solid metaphor. Well, Steam was like, well, it's about time we do something about that. So they're adding warnings to early access games that haven't been updated recently. My first thought was like, how many games could this really apply to? Like, surely if you're in early access, you must be getting updates frequently, right? Like, how many games could possibly fit that criteria? Right? Well, after a very short time looking, I found several games that fit that criteria, and apparently this is a problem. I guess I'm the last one finding out about it. So if you'll accompany me on this little journey, I'm gonna go check out some of these abandoned games and see if there's any justification for them to still be on the Steam store, or if they're just like scams. Before we dive into this graveyard, I want to talk about early access real quick. What is early access? Sometimes a game needs early access to get a little bit of funding to help push it across the finish line and complete the development process, and if that works, that's awesome. There's great examples of that working. But sometimes it feels like early access is a trick. Alright, here we are. What do you mean this is just a field? No. This is a house in early access. No, I paid for the house in this picture. The money's already gone through? Yeah, of course. Sorry, this project's abandoned. The more I've thought about it, the more early access seems indistinguishable from just fully releasing a game. Like, real quick, let's play Guess the Game. This game came out in 2020 at full price. Started in a clearly unfinished state. It was only after several years and many tweaks that this game became celebrated and renowned. If you were to guess Cyberpunk, you would be correct. But also, if you were to guess Baldur's Gate 3, you'd also be correct. Now hold on. I'm not saying that's the same situation, alright? Chill. Alright, hear me out. The way things went down, everyone hated on and continues to hate on to this day Cyberpunk 2077 for the way it came out. And of course Baldur's Gate 3 didn't receive the same reception. It was in early access. What if nothing changed about Cyberpunk, but it just was released in early access? Would people be mad about Cyberpunk if they just said it was early access when they released it? They could have still charged full price. It seems like early access has no other practical function other than to manage expectations, which is great, and I think the developers should always manage expectations. But why not just call every game early access? I mean, like, every game that comes out these days is updated and tweaked and patched, and more often games will come out and then a year later look like way different than they did. You know, that's not uncommon. So yeah, why doesn't every game just call themselves early access? And the way it's going, you know, that might just be happening. Like, then you couldn't complain about the bugs, right? You can't complain about bugs in an early access game. No, bro, it's early access. It's supposed to be like this. Just wait for the full release. And I mean, a game being early access doesn't even really always kill the hype. Like, you remember Valheim when Valheim came out? Huge. Palworld, most recently Path of Exile 2. Those games are still in early access, right? And they're huge already. So yeah, I've almost lost the idea of what early access even means. But with all that being said, we're gonna look at some of these quote-unquote abandoned games that are labeled by Steam. Let's check it out. The first game we're gonna start out with is called Neon Echo. So here we have the game, and like every early access game before, it still has this early access game tag. But what's new is this note here. It says, note, the last update made by the developers was over 20 months ago. The information and timeline described by the developers may no longer be up to date. Thanks, Steam. Appreciate it. What's the story with this game? What's the story with Neon Echo? So it was released on April 21st, 2023, and it looks cool. I would play that game for free. I mean, I guess for free. It's actually charging $14.99 for the game right now, and it's apparently, you know, not been updated for 20... Wait a second. It hasn't been updated for 20 months, and it came out in 2023? This game stopped being updated like 2 or 3 months after it came out in early access. I mean, let's look at the reviews. It says it's mixed reviews. Let's check it out. Let's look at the reviews. The game is abandoned. Don't buy it. The game has some good potential, but ended up sadly as abandonware. Plays great on Steam Deck. Do not buy. Game is no longer being updated. It has so much potential. Please add more content. Yeah, all these positive reviews are from 2023 when they were still updating the game. But pretty much all negative reviews since, it would seem. The entire dev team was fired. Will never be finished. So after I did a little bit more research, it looks like 3 months after this game came out in early access, the entire dev team was laid off. So it almost feels like, given that they released this in early access, it was up for 3 months before the entire dev team got laid off, and it's still in early access with no updates. It almost seems like they never planned to finish the game. They just wanted like an initial shield. So they got like good reviews, but all those reviews were kind of dependent on the game being updated again. It had good potential. I can't wait for them to add more content, things like that. And so it looks like this game, I mean, it certainly shouldn't be in early access anymore. Like, I mean, I'm not saying they have to like take it out of the store, but the devs haven't updated the page at all. In fact, it says that the early access will last for at least 6 months, but that was, 2 years ago. It seems like they're just hoping people buy it, thinking that it'll eventually come out. Luckily, Steam has added this note, so that hopefully won't happen, at least not as much. I mean, cross your fingers, right? Moving on to the next game. It's called Atlas. Now this game, it hurts. It hurts me because it looks like such a game that I would play. I mean, like, it's pirates, It looks good, It looks pretty good. It's described as the ultimate pirate experience. And the visuals just look cool. You get to box Santa Claus in this game. Cool. You get to sword fight Santa Claus in this game as well. Very cool. Embark on a grand adventure alongside thousands of other players in one of the largest game worlds ever built. This game is essentially like a pirate MMO, which just sounds awesome to me. It hasn't been touched in 20 months. The developers have said anything about it being cut off. Well, they did say Atlas will be in early access for approximately 2 years. They said that in 2018. We're not seeing any note from the developers about this game being abandoned anywhere. Nowhere on there. Meanwhile, this game does cost $30. So let's see what the reviews are saying. You got mixed reviews, alright? Could have been an amazing game. Shame it was abandoned. It's pretty much dead. It was cool until the game kept breaking more and more every patch. Yeah, that's not good. Well, the game is abandoned by the devs, yet still for sale. See, this is clearly like a pain point for people, so Steam is making a good move with this. Hey, so we got one review from not that long ago. Less lag and bugs than when it dropped. Great game. Okay. So it's not universally hated, even though it hasn't been touched for 20 months. So that's I'm gonna be fair. I'm not gonna just pick the worst reviews. Then again, dead broken game. So how about that? Yeah, I mean, there seems to be a few really good reviews posted kind of recently. So this game, while it hasn't been touched in a long time, it's still it seems functional enough for people to play it, today and still like it. And see, check this out. The most accurate pirate game I ever played. It stole all our money. 10 out of 10. So overall, I would say this isn't the worst case scenario. My opinion is starting to form that if you're never gonna work on your game, regardless of the state it's in, it should no longer be called early access, because people shouldn't be judging the game as a game that's going to improve, which that's a very different judgment than it would be if it's the final product of a game. So moving on to the next game, so we're going Realm Royale Reforged. It's a stylized battle royale game, so exactly what we need. Another one of those. But it looks like at least very positive reviews. Let's see if the devs put anything on the page about it being dead. We have the first note from the devs. Services for this title will be shutting down on February 17th, 2025. So in 10 days. So, okay. So they said this hasn't been touched for 18 months, but they did announce that they will be shutting down this game. I'm not sure when they made this announcement, but it's there. The devs said something. And it's a free-to-play game. So, I mean, what are you gonna do? It's a free-to-play game. You're not gonna be mad. Oh, I spend the time to download it? Come on. Yeah, very positive reviews. Let's see what the reviews have to say. My favorite battle royale game. The game is shutting down this month. RIP. Okay, so they're not updating this game, but the fan base was pretty happy about it. See, this says it's Fortnite. Give me my money back. But isn't it free though? Most people said they had a lot of fun with this game. It's getting shut down, so it makes sense that they would have this note. Of the three, so far, very justifiable. Not a bad thing, not a big deal. On to the next game. Next game we're going to is Jump Light Odyssey. Gather survivors, repair, and build out your starship. It looks like it's a strategy management simulation game in space. Okay, so even in the early access note, the developer said, as of December 2023, the development on Jump Flight Odyssey has been paused indefinitely. We do hope to recommence development, and so we have left our original early access message intact. Okay. So that's why they're still on early access, even though they haven't updated in 14 months. The developers have made sure that everyone on this page is listed that development is paused indefinitely. Okay, even with all that, let's see what the comments have to say about this. I wish I could give this game a good review. It's amazing, it has amazing potential, and I love the overall design. Unfortunately, it's been abandoned mid-development. Although it somewhat works, there are bugs. Cool concept and artwork, but there's no one working on it. Abandonware. There are some good reviews. Really great game and feels complete? How? Even with the developer note, it's not stopping people from leaving bad reviews. And I mean, like, I can't blame them. What are you gonna just, give it a good review because the developer's not developing anymore? Because they let you know? That's rough. In addition, like, the game is $30, so, yeah, even with the developers saying that they're hoping to come back to it, charging $30 for a game that's like unfinished and possibly never going to be finished, that's a tough sale. Okay, and that's Jump Flight Odyssey. All right, let's move on to the last game, Cavern King. And its last update was over 8 years ago. That seemed, I can't imagine we'll find anything on the page that justifies that, right? No way, I can't even imagine what would. This is an indie roguelike game, alright? So it looks fun, it looks cool, it looks like I could have a good time with this game. Pretty stimulating, to be real. It's pretty aggressive. Maybe not my cup of tea, but it looks like well made, at least, right? But my current goal is to fully release the game by the end of 2014. Okay. I'm hoping that the developer has just forgotten about this game because, that can happen. People are humans. But it's not free. It's $5. So it's very unlikely that he forgot about this game. If anyone is buying it. Like, if he's making even one sale. Oh yeah, I forgot about that game. This game is incomplete and no longer in development. However, it's mostly playable in its current state. Maybe some crashes here and there. All these games, all the bad reviews are about the game being abandoned. This game, it looked like this had some positive reviews back when it was still being updated, but every review since has just been, even in 2021, people are still reviewing this game. After 8 years in early access, it gets not recommended by default. Yeah. Well, somebody just reviewed it in 2024, incomplete and no longer in development, but still on sale in early access. Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem for me. Let me see if I can find anything else about this. Okay, so the developer has commented about this on a forum, and in 2017, he said, they're still possibly working on it. But he came back to the same thread, and he said he's updated the description to indicate that the game is abandoned. He's dropped the price from $10 to $5. Refunds are always available on Steam. And if you're angry, give them an earful. Give Steam an earful. Very cool. It averages about one sale every 2 months, it looks like, for the past 5 years. And he says it's simply not viable or worthwhile to work on. Understandable. I get that. Sometimes projects can't finish it. There's no point to finish. But this one, it says Cavern Kings is dead, Dunzo, finished, and spit on. Try not to be mad at games that cost less than chicken nuggets. I usually try to keep it positive, benefit of the doubt and all that, but this is like the fear of early access games, right? Like, I understand you not finishing the game, but early access doesn't mean unfinished. It means in progress. If the game is no longer in progress, even if you're saying, quote, it's mostly playable in its current state, if you're gonna say that, then don't have it in early access. Like, right now, the only reason it's in early access is to, I guess, maybe get the benefit of the doubt. When people get to play the game and it's unfinished, then they might not leave a negative review because it's in early access, but it's not, it shouldn't be, right? It should be fully released. It's not in development anymore. It's not an early access game. Yeah, so this actually kind of represents what I think the fear is, and I think that this note is actually hugely helpful in maybe helping people, either persuading them not to buy the game, or when they do buy the game, leaving a negative review if someone were to buy it. I don't know. It seems weird to me to have a game in early access and know that you're never going to work on it again. Permanent early access should not be permissible. Okay. Well, that was a rant. Okay. After looking at these games, my opinion on early access has changed a bit. I've always been a bit iffy about early access games because it's like, I don't want to spoil what could be a full experience later. Reading some of the comments and seeing how many people were actually like passionate about helping these early access games out, giving them money ahead of time so that they could finish the project, it really like kind of changed my perspective a little bit. I like the idea of games that need a little bit of help getting across the finish line can go out for early access and not just ask for donations, but give the gamers a little bit of something. And I think this is especially good for like smaller game studios. In a perfect world, it seems like it could be a great solution for game dev costs towards the end of a development lifecycle. But unfortunately, we're not in a perfect world, and it seems like it's also pretty easy to take advantage of. Selling gamers a dream of a game instead of an actual game and having no intention of finishing that game, or halfway through development deciding that you don't want to finish the game because you're not going to sell more copies. I know ultimately everyone's responsible for their own purchasing decisions, but I think any steps you can take to give people an easier path to supporting game studios that are actually going to finish their early access games, that's a good step. That's a step in the right direction. And for me, calling out games that are never going to be finished or games that haven't been updated in a really long time, that's a huge step in the right direction. Because now when you buy an early access game, you can at least know off the bat just by glancing it's actually early access. It's not just a finished game pretending to be early access. So yeah, that's really all I gotta say about this. My name's Terrence. I'm gonna keep playing games till I find the perfect one. Peace, love.